and Goneril, flame-haired, thin and pale, green-eyed Goneril, fiery, sashayed to the middle of the podium and confronted her audience. And for as long as she could remember, this young woman had been desperate to get her hands on power. But she thought she'd have to wait until her father died before she inherited it. And now he was giving it away. She was determined to get herself as much as possible. So she said, "Father, I love you more than word can wield the matter, dearer than eyesight, space, and liberty. Beyond that which can be valued rich or rare, a love that makes breath poor and speech unable." Now, nobody there had ever heard Goneril unable to speak in her whole life. But they let that go because she'd spoken quite well. And Lear was really chuffed. He thought that was the best thing he'd ever heard. He beamed. And he said, "Splendid!" And with a click of his fingers, a portion of the map was torn from its hanging and handed to Goneril. And it was one of the thin bits. The one to the east, which was marshy and inhospitable. It was a thoroughly rubbish bit of kingdom, let's face it. And she could barely hide her disappointment as she edged back to take her place on the podium. And now it was Regan's turn, the middle daughter. Sharp-toothed, sharp-eyed, sharp-tongued. Regan, tottering always in the shadow of her sister. It was her turn to shine. She practically fell over herself trying to get to the centre of the podium, she did. She got there and she thought, and then she said, "Father, I agree with you that my sister has indeed spoken very well. In fact, in my true heart, I find she names my very deed of love. Only she comes too short. For I profess myself to be an enemy to all other joys, and it is only your highness that I truly love." Lear was drinking this in. It was brilliant stuff, and the best thing about it, he had an audience to hear how his daughters spoke about him. "Splendid," he said, clicked his fingers. Another portion of the kingdom was ripped from the map and handed to Regan, and it was the other thin bit, the bit to the west. Rocky, barren, and this bit down here was mainly populated by barbarians, very unfriendly. And she tried to keep her grin in place as she gamely, sportingly stepped back to her place on the podium, crestfallen. And then Lear's eyes turned in the direction of his youngest daughter, his favourite, Cordelia. And now our joy, Cordelia. And when he said those words, a chill wind crept in under the door of the great hall and swirled around the podium and set the remains of the map swaying ever so slightly